Oh, let's see, where are we? I think it's this one? I'm not too sure now. I wonder if you can tell, but I don't know. What is today's date? The 13th? Alright, let's see. Recognize deep narcissists before you fall for them. You can recognize deep narcissists by the following behavior patterns. If they ever get insulted or challenged, they have no defense, nothing internal to soothe them or validate their worth. They generally react with great rage, thirsting for vengeance, full of a sense of righteousness. This is the only way they know how to assuage their insecurities. In such battles, they will position themselves as the wounded victim, confusing others or even drawing sympathy. They are prickly and oversensitive. Almost everything is taken personally. They can become quite paranoid and have enemies in all directions to point to. You can see an impatient and distant look in their face whenever you talk about something that does not directly involve them in some way. They immediately turn the conversation back to themselves with some story or anecdote to distract from the insecurity behind it. They can be prone to vicious bouts of envy if they see others getting the attention they feel they deserve. They frequently display extreme self-confidence. This always helps to gain attention, and it neatly covers up their gaping inner emptiness and their fragmented sense of self. Because of this confidence is but, but be aware if this confidence is ever truly put to the test. When it comes to other people in their lives, deep narcissists have an unusual relationship that is hard for us to understand. They tend to see others as extensions of themselves, what is known as self-objects. People exist as instruments for attention and validation. Their desire is to control them like they control their own arm or leg. In a relationship, they will slowly make the partner cut off contact with friends. There must be no competition for attention. Daily law, in the end, deep narcissists must have everything revolve around them. The best solution is to get out of their way so as not to get entangled in their never-ending dramas, and you can do so by picking up on the warning signs. That's from the laws of human nature, number 2, transform self-love into empathy. The law of narcissism. Narcissists. That's interesting. 30 things about them. They say the people that are like the most successful in like the business world and stuff like that are deep narcissists. I heard that. It makes sense, I guess. You kind of have to be self-absorbed and to a certain degree to be able to climb the socio-economic ladder. Put it on 5. A decent volume for classical music. Has some of my drink, whatever's in here is probably tea. Wrong. That is an Alani. Plenty of that. I was up a little later than normal, so I'm a bit more tired than usual. All right, let's hit the road. Have a safe, pleasant journey. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. Whew. Oh man. Stopped and saw my parents for a little bit yesterday. I don't see them very often. It was a pleasant little visit for both. And then I saw my little, what would she be? I guess she'd be my niece and my nephew, my sister's kids. Yeah, I guess that's what that would be. She's really cute. So is he. He's gigantic. I think he's 14, but he's huge. He's adorable. They're both very cute. Little girl's like 3 years old, full of energy, showing me different things. They were at my mom's house, or my mom was babysitting her before they got picked up. It was a cute visit. Just telling me all kinds of things and showing me things. And they're very cute kids. Oh man. That's about it. I had all kinds of dreams again. What was the one I woke up from? I don't remember. I was having one right up until the moment I got up. My alarm woke me up. I'm still like half awake. I could totally go back to sleep. Feel it in my brain. And then one of my daughters, my second oldest, was at my mom's house. Saw her for a quick sec. She looked like she just woke up. Either that or she just wasn't too happy that I was there. I kind of took it that way, but I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But her dog's adorable. It's like maybe some sort of like little mix, maybe pit mix. Who knows? A very sweet dog, full of energy. That's pretty much it. Yeah, there's probably still a lot of ill will between my kids and me. It's just an odd dynamic because I'm pretty sure, there was all kinds of things said about me in my absence. A lot which probably wasn't true or grossly inaccurate. And I don't care to outright defend myself unless it's brought up to me. And they don't really care to engage with me, which is fine. I don't feel bad about that, and that's fair. They can believe what they want. It doesn't make a difference to me. But what I know for sure is they don't know anything accurate about their mother's past when it comes to certain things. It all comes out in the end. Nothing stays hidden forever. I am so tired. I'm probably just gonna pound this energy drink right now. That's what's gonna happen. Still thinking about my master plan and how to get that going. Thinking of a master plan. Well, that guy's brake lights are shorting out. He doesn't know this is happening. And you can't see that happening as the truck is sitting still. Like when you do a walk around, he's just going to see his lights on. When he hits the road and that thing hits bumps, they short out. So it just goes to show, even if you have the best habits in the world, you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, there's still things that you can miss. Because not every element in the equation is going to be present when you're doing all the right things at the right time. There could still be a missing piece of the puzzle. Like with Caesar and the way his dog Junior attacked Queen Latifah's dog, killed it. Even if you're doing all the right things, you just might be seeing, there might be something there that you can't see. Especially when you're working with animals. There can always be an element of that mental environment that you're just not aware of. Like I said in another video, as animals get older, behaviors can change. Temperaments can evolve. Age, you can get cranky just like an old person. An old dog can get a little cranky, and he probably should have retired Junior as a dog that he's working or using to work with other animals with. It was just a mistake. But unfortunately, it doesn't look good for him. It doesn't look good for the breed. Because Junior was a pit. It's just more ammunition for people to point at and say, see? Those dangerous dogs. And they point at him, see? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Which is unfortunate, because he absolutely knows what he's talking about. He's just talking about it from a different angle that people don't understand. To be honest, he talks about it from the angle that I'm approaching it with all this material I'm creating. And not many people are aware. And it wasn't until I started making this material, I was like, oh man, he was so spot on, but he just never, I don't even know if he's aware of the Hermetic principles. He might be, for all I know, and that's just how, I just think it's naturally how it evolved out of him, the way he approaches animals. And that's kind of how it evolved out of me with the way I was introduced to animals, not really knowing what I was doing, so I just approached it from the most natural way I was able to process. Just he put it into words, and then after all these years later, when I started playing around with AI, putting my stuff together, and mixing Hermetic principles with the psychology of animal behavior, the way it all came together, I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty much, this is perfect. This is it. These are the immutable laws that coincide with how animals process the world. I think it's beautiful and elegant. But that is a missing piece of the conversation when it comes to your animals is age. When they're young and they have that young energy. This goes for kids too, honestly. This could probably be helpful for parents. When they're young and they have that young energy, there's a certain way you have to engage them when it comes to how you give guidance. You can't entertain high level energy in a certain way. And when it comes to the teaching process, you have to get that mind in a specific gear in order for them to be receptive to whatever it is you're trying to instill into them, both kids and animals. And then as they age and progress, and then that energy kind of like dampens down a bit, and you can engage them a little bit differently because they're a little bit more settled in their way. But then as they get even older, that crankiness, that temperamentalness can set in again, because just like the stereotypical old person that you see, like, get off my lawn. These darn kids, that kind of attitude. Well, in a dog, if they're not feeling it, they're with another dog, and especially you're in an environment where it's a training situation. If the dog you're training snaps, and that get off my lawn can manifest in a dog as just the only way they can is snap. It's not going to be a verbal. It might not be a verbal snap. It might be an outright lunge with that mouth. I just have a feeling that's what might have happened, because you can't find very much information on the details of what was going on, because I don't know if he's talked about it. I didn't even know it happened until I looked it up. I'm out of the loop in terms of news. And it was a high profile client, and he was a high profile trainer. And you would have to speak to him in order to know what happened during that training session. But that's all it said when I looked it up. Because I really want to know. I wish I knew. And I know two really good trainers that worked with him. But I've reached out to them before I found out what happened to see if he had training sessions going, but they didn't reply. So, and I have a feeling they probably still work with my ex-boss, maybe. That's a complete guess. But I don't know if that has anything to do with it, because I didn't leave that on the best of terms. Who knows? A lot of question marks, no answers. It's all speculation. I have nothing to go on. And the only reason I even think about this stuff is there's something about the dogs that I can't completely say I'm 100% done with, obviously. I have intentions of doing things. in the animal world, and I'm finding out a lot of this stuff like really late when it comes to the Caesar and all that. Oh, I forgot to check the air pressure in my tires. Whoa. I'm gonna have to have a lot of caffeine today, that's for sure. Anyways, it was good seeing my mom. They're getting up there in age. It's gonna be weird when they go. To be honest, the fact that I don't see them that much, this probably prepared me a little bit for when they do go. It'll be weird. But I guess I'm to some degree already a little prepared for it. And probably my reset kind of severed like that connection with them a little bit. That'll probably help dampen that blow when it happens. And the fact that I think about death a lot, just in general. Let's get over it. Maybe these lanes are open, not closed. Just relax with the trucks. Let's get over again. It's funny, people. I'm going slow. I don't always. I try not to drive like a madman, and my ride to work in the morning is normally pretty relaxed, so I'm not in too much of a hurry. But some of these people jump in front of me like, you're going too slow, and then they have to drive slow behind a truck. It's kind of funny. And as a driver, I was a professional driver. I was trained to observe what's happening in front of the cars that I'm driving behind. I'm not just paying attention to what's in front of me, I'm paying attention to what's in front of what's in front of me. That's actually a good metaphor for how you should be viewing life in general. Don't just pay attention to what's immediately ahead. You have to take the long view and look past what's immediately ahead of you in life. Had I been doing that from way early on, I probably would have had a much different life, but I learned it later. Guess it's never too late. To be honest, I would really love to make a movie of my life. I don't know why, this was just such a random thought that came to my mind. I was thinking about my AI thing with my dogs, and that immediately shifted gears into the AI conversation I had about like my life story. And I think the only real way to express to my kids what happened in my life, because I know they don't really understand from my perspective, because that conversation really hasn't been had with each one of them individually in detail. So they only have bits and pieces from what they've heard from their mother. They only have bits and pieces from what they've heard from my mom. Because the conversation that I had with my mom yesterday, she mentioned that my ex tried to really sugarcoat what happened from her end. And I think my mom had to correct the record to a certain degree. Like, oh no, that's not true. In a way that, my mom did the best she could with, but they haven't really even heard, they'd never heard it from me. And I don't think any of them are willing to sit down and have that conversation with me. So to be honest, if I could turn my life into a movie, that's probably the only way that they'd ever really see what it was that I experienced in my life and why I made the decisions that I've made. Because on the surface, just to say, I left my family. It sounds terrible, but you have to understand what it was that I went through and why it all accumulated to the point where I just up and left. It's like, what else am I supposed to do? that's just how it had to be. It's like ripping a Band-Aid off. That's exactly how it had to happen for me. I wish there was kind of a way I could have a conversation with AI audibly without having to like type it. You know, be like a text conversation. I wish it could be like just an audible conversation. Because that really was a fascinating experience to have it interview me. I think the one part of the conversation with my mom yesterday that left me with more question marks was like, she told the story about how she saw my ex, or somebody saw my ex out with a guy when I was still married. And then my mom asked that person, you know, what was she wearing? So the person described her outfit. So later that day, when my ex came to pick up my kids, when my mom opened the door, she was wearing that exact outfit that that person described. My mom said, like, oh, like her whole, like, just everything just sank, like, oh. And the question I have is, okay, so you discovered that I was being cheated on before I did. Why didn't you tell me? Or if I was her, I would have confronted my ex. I would have said, look, this is what I know. This is why I know it. You need to come clean to my son, or I'm going to. I would have put her in that position at the least. But none of that happened. Everybody just stayed quiet, and I had to find out on my own in the worst way possible. That's what I don't get. These are the people I was surrounded with in my life. Nobody was looking out for me. That's why I love my woman so much. She's the only person that purely looks out for me in a way that I've never experienced in my life. It's crazy. It's like nobody ever had my back the way my woman does. It's just weird. Right? That's supposed to be your parents. Your parents are supposed to have your back. But in that situation, nobody had my back. But that's what I would have done if I was my mom and I found that shit out. I would have totally put her in that position. You better say something or I will. Because this is what I know as a fact. But that didn't happen. It went down the way it did. Maybe it was better that way. I don't know. Maybe it had to be the way it was. It had to be that dramatic. I don't know. This is why this movie probably has to get made. Now my life. It's going good now, but good Lord, I had to go through some dramatic stuff for it to get here. All right, I'm safe, and I'm gonna have a fantastic day. I hope everybody does the same. Go to work,